This is CHSR 97.9 FM here in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada, and you're listening to Python's Paradise, your film and music show. And this is your host, Greg Gilbert, a.k.a. the Python Hyena. And I have a great guest on here, a very patient guest. I tried to have him on here before, but little technicalities wasn't going to make it happen. But he was nice enough to come back and give me another shot. But I have a wonderful musician here on the phone, very talented. Please, folks, I give you Darryl Purpose. How do you do, Darryl?
Hi, Craig. How are you? Good to talk to you.
It's nice to talk to you, too. Mike Gormley had told me that you've had an interview on CHSR before.
Well, I don't know that I've had an interview, but I remember there's a fellow named David Pyrie who used to play my records a lot, was a big fan.
You know, I don't know him, but my program director does, and so does one of the 25-year veterans here at the station knows who he is. I guess he had a show here, like I started here in 2005, and I guess he had a show alongside mine for about 3 or 4 years, and I don't know where he moved on to, but I guess...
I was going to say that if you do happen to run across him, please say hi from me. You know, that was it was at the time I released my very first record in 1996, and he played it quite a lot, so I really appreciated the support.
Well, you know, you can probably get a hold of him, you know, through the CHSR webpage. You know, the program director or the station manager could probably, well, maybe that station manager, she's relatively new, but program director could probably put you in touch with him, no problem.
Great.
Yeah. But, yeah, we pride ourselves here to play musicians and whatnot that you might not hear on your commercial radio stations. Like when I started here, like I review movies. I've been doing it since 1996. And a friend of mine told me I should go to CHSR and do my movie reviews. And when I called the station, they told me they don't have a movie critic. So started from there, and I do film reviews and play music. And I started playing music at the protest of the commercial stations, because I remember I like it how they have these request lines, but you're not allowed. You have to request top 40, because I requested a song by Avril Lavigne called "Together," which I think was a great song that never got mainstream release. And it was written by Chantal Kraviazik. And I saw Avril perform it live. And the station wouldn't play it, the station I called into. So whenever I started here at CHSR, I cranked that song loud. It was the first song I played. It was like flipping off the commercial stations, and we get to play artists like yourself and Moonways, which Mike Gormley introduced me to as well.
You turned it up to 11, huh?
We turned it up to 11, just like the Spinal Tap guys. Yeah.
Great.
Actually, I just bought that Blu-ray not too long ago. This is Spinal Tap. That was a great movie.
Is that right? One of the great movies of all time.
Yeah.
You know, Rob Reiner, didn't he make The Princess Bride real close to that? He made The Princess Bride, Me, and Spinal Tap all like within 2 years. 3 of the great movies of all time.
He did. I actually know this. He did. This is Spinal Tap in '84, and he did Princess Bride in '87.
Well, there you go.
There you go. I don't know all dates, but I do happen to know those two. Yeah.
That's a little piece of trivia.
Oh yeah. Well, no, I love reviewing the cult films, you know, and I love the midnight audiences, and I do a lot of cult film interviews, but every so often I get some musicians on here, and it's really kind of cool. And you're the third person I've gotten through Mike. Now, I got to ask, how did you come to meet Mike Gormley?
Well, I knew Mike through my friends Eric Lowen and Dan Navarro. Mike used to work with them, back 20 years ago when I first started in music. And when I needed some help for this new release, Still the Birds, I thought of Mike and called him, and we've got a lot of common ground, and so he agreed to help me out with this release.
Yeah, I had him on here back in May, and he messaged me Sunday. Yesterday actually. I got a message saying that asked me if I could interview you today, and I was like, perfect. I'm right here at the studio. I was able to book the time on the board, so it was perfect.
Wonderful.
So, yeah. So, Mike seems like a great guy. I never met him personally, but I've gotten to know him a little bit through social media. Like I said, I've interviewed Lisa Langlois, and I interviewed New Moons, Leah Lane, a band he's from Dallas, Texas, that he's promoting. So, and I just podcasted that out, and he asked me if I'd interview you, and said you had an interesting backstory. So I looked you up, and I was like, sure, why not?
Well, thanks for doing that. Yeah, Mike is a great guy.
Yeah. So you had quite a backstory about being a blackjack player. Do you want to go into that?
Well, when I was 16, my mother put a book called Beat the Dealer in my Christmas stocking. And when I was about 19, I left home for Las Vegas and, found my way into the casinos and met some people and ended up playing on the Ken Houston team, who to this day might still be the most famous card counter ever. I was playing on his team when I was 20, 21, 22. And I ended up running my own teams a little bit after that when I was 23, 24. And just about 7 years ago, I was inducted into the Blackjack Hall of Fame. And about 18 people, including the guy that wrote that book that my mother put in my Christmas stocking, Ed Thorpe. He wrote the book Beat the Dealer, which was the first book about card counting. And, he's now in his 80s and still going strong. A great guy. And, a lot has happened over the years, but basically I refer to Blackjack as the only real job I've ever had.
So you were doing this before Zach Galifianakis did it in The Hangover, huh?
Yes.
Did you see that movie?
I feel like I did see that movie, but I didn't see anything about. I don't remember anything about card counting, but
oh yeah, it's there. That was the one thing Zach Galifianakis' character did right.
Oh right, I kind of remember that now. But that was just kind of a joke. That wasn't really what a card counter does. That was just a comedy movie. The movies rarely get this stuff right.
Oh, probably not.
Yeah, they rarely get it right. There was a script going around Hollywood about the story of my life around the same time that the script was going around for the movie that eventually became the movie 21.
I remember that movie.
Yeah, and I was told that, there's only going to be one movie about Blackjack. Either that one was going to get made or mine was going to get made. And as we know, that one got made. And, so, I'm biased against it because my story didn't get made. But I thought the first third of it was felt pretty accurate about people starting out as card counters. It felt kind of real. But then the last 2/3, especially the last third, was just kind of Hollywood. They just turned it over to the screenwriters and they made up stuff that doesn't really happen in the real world.
That's unfortunate too, because you look at all the reboots and remakes and stuff that people don't ask for. Why not do your story?
Yeah, why not do something really? I mean, you could say that about a lot of different movies. They have rules. They got in Hollywood, things got to get blown up. Eyes got to get gouged out. Things that as long as they get left behind.
Yeah. Well, I think if I can make a chunk of turd like Pearl Harbor, which was garbage, I think they can do your movie. I could see like the Coen brothers doing a really good job with something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, you know what?
That was long ago. That was about maybe 8-9 years ago. Just like an album, it's old at this point. It's an old script. It's not something. It's not something that'll possibly going to get made. It's an old script, and they move on. Hollywood moves on, and here we are.
Well, that's unfortunate. Maybe maybe you might get some luck. Who would you want to play you?
Oh, I have such a hard time with those kind of questions. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it.
Come on, say Tom Cruise.
What's that?
Say Tom Cruise.
Yeah, well, most of my stuff. I know when my script was written, the stuff that was captured was the stuff that happened, when I was 20 and 21. So Tom Cruise wouldn't be able to play that.
Well, if you've seen the movie Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, they had John C. Reilly play 13 years old.
Really?
Except for the fact it was a joke. They had they were making fun of these movies that. In this particular scene, they're making fun of these movies that always have actors playing teenagers, but they look like adults. So they had Margot Martindale come into the scene at the school recital, and she goes, "Where's my favorite 14-year-old boy?" And then you got all these kids. You got John C. Reilly turn around and goes, "Here I am, Ma." Yeah.
Crazy.
Have you seen Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story?
Well, I've been told that that's a must-see, but I have not seen it, no.
It's a great movie. It bombed when it came out, and I thought it was one of the most underrated and underappreciated mockumentary comedies I've ever seen, because it basically create their own character with Dewey Cox, and they basically go through all of these, like Walk the Line, Ray, and all these documentary about musicians, and they take everything that goes through these movies commonly, like the tragedy in the past and all this stuff, and their parents are apparent resenting them and all this, and the marriages and infidelity, and they take that and they really exploit it, and they make fun of it to exaggerated extremes. And John C. Reilly was so good in it. I don't know why he didn't get an Oscar nomination, but he did get a Golden Globe nomination. But I bought the soundtrack, and it was great.
Yeah, what's it? Who was in the soundtrack?
Well, John C. Reilly sings a couple tracks in it.
I see.
Yeah, and he does a good job in it. And you got Kristen Wiig in it. She plays his first wife. In fact, she says, "You hear that? I'm Dewey Cox's 12-year-old girlfriend." She's Kristen Wiig.
Wow.
And you got, how like in Ray, there was something that made him go blind, and then there was something that hindered, or somebody dies. And in Walk Hard, you got Raymond Barry playing their father. And he's got all this hope. He's got all this hope in the other son, because the other son's playing piano, and you can tell it's an exaggeration. The kid's not really playing, but that's part of the point. And the kid goes, "Ain't nothing bad gonna happen today." So they're doing all these exaggerated, daring stuff that would get somebody killed, and then they have a play machete fight. And Dewey accidentally cuts his brother in half with the machete.
Oh no!
And then you got the pants are still standing up, and the Nate, the brother, is looking up and goes, Dewey. And then Dewey goes, Nate. And he goes, I'm cut up pretty bad. You'll have to go get Pa. You'll have to be double great for the both of us, you know? And the next shot, you got the doctor coming out of the room, and he makes the most ridiculous comment. He goes, well, folks, I wasn't able to. Goes, this was a particularly bad case of somebody being cut in half. I'm sorry, I was not able to attach the top half of Nate to the bottom half of Nate. And then Raymond Barry he goes, speak English, doctor. We're not scientists. And he goes, I'm sorry, but he's gone. And of course, Margot Martindale gets all hysteric and crying. And Raymond Barry, he just turns, he goes to Dewey as a boy. He goes, you're not half the boy Nate was. You weren't half the boy the top half of Nate was before you cut him in half. And then Dewey Cox goes, you mean I'm not even quarter of the boy Nate was? And all through the movie, the one line that Raymond Barry says, he goes, the wrong kid died. And of course, his hindrance is that he goes smell blind, which means he can't smell.
Really?
Yeah, it makes no sense, but that's part of the point. Like,
I gotta see it. I gotta see this movie.
Oh yeah, it is a great movie. Like, absolutely. Like, Dewey Cox ends up getting married twice at the same time, basically. Yeah, he gets married to he gets involved with Jenna Fisher, and she's trying to resist him, and she goes, we can't give in to temptation unless we're married. And he goes, because he's already married to Kristen Wiig, but he's out on tour. So they get married, and they're at the hotel room, and they're about to get it on sexually. And then you hear, I'm here. And then you got Kristen Wiig wander in. John C. Reilly goes, says her name, whatever her name was. And, just use the word Kristen. He goes, Kristen. He goes, what are you doing? He goes, and the Jenna goes, who are you? He goes, I'm his wife. That's who I am. He goes, you're his wife. And then John C. Reilly goes, it ain't what it looks like. He goes, it ain't what it looks like to me, or it ain't what it looks like to her, because it's got to be what it looks like to at least one of us.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't want to spend too much time talking about this, but it's interesting, like when Kristen Wiig goes to walk out on him, she goes, you can't get double married. And he goes, what if you're famous? And he goes, it's illegal. And he goes, don't you look at me like I'm some kind of criminal. And he goes, what have I ever done to you? And he goes, well, what about the time you woke up in the middle of the night and you drank up all the milk, and whenever I got up to have my cornflakes, there was none left. That's his argument. I thought the screenwriters just did a great job at picking at the comedy. So if you haven't seen Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, it is great. In the extended edition, he actually gets a third wife, Cheryl Teagues. Yeah, he calls her Cheryl Cox Teagues. Can you imagine? But they managed to cut that third marriage out of the movie, and it's in the extended cut. So some good editing there. But Walk Hard's a great movie. You got to check it out. I laughed my ass off at it, and I thought the writing was great. Go through rehab and everything. Like everything you hear about these stars go through, they exploit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you even get to see a ghost of Nate, and he turns out to be Jonah Hill.
Is that right?
Yeah. But anyway, I don't want to talk too much about Walk Hard. We'll make this about you, but that gives you something to look forward to whenever you spot it on Netflix. But you've done a number of albums here, and I guess your first one was in 1996, The Right Side of Zero. Talk about the process of that.
Well, it was a long time ago.
That was the year I started film criticism.
Is that right?
Yep.
It was, I've been a gambler most all my life, and I just felt like, I wanted to have a recording of some of the songs that I had written. I wrote like maybe one song a year, and would travel around the world with my guitar and play it in interesting places. And I thought I wanted a record of that, something, that I could use as a calling card and say, I did this, So I booked some time in small living room studios around Los Angeles. We used the format ADAT at the time, and created this album for me. And the story goes that that album started my path down the music life. I used it to get a booking agent and a record label, and started touring, and ended up, making 7 more, 8 records altogether, and touring quite a bit, starting from nothing and ending up, being on main stage at the Kerrville Folk Festival and some of the better folk venues around the United States. I've never really played in Canada other than the Folk Alliance conferences that have been there, the few that have been there, one in Toronto and one in Vancouver. But it's been quite a time, and it's sort of been peppered with back to card playing. But I had the 10-year period of 96 through 2004. I guess you'd have to call that a 9-year period. And I don't know if you can tell, Greg, but we were having the most amazing thunder here. Can you hear that in the background?
Yeah, we've got it here too.
That's so funny, but we're so far away. I'm in Colorado.
Yeah.
Crazy thunder is happening, and actually we just lost our power for a second, and I lost you for a couple seconds, but now, but then you came back. So, if something does happen, I am blaming the thunder and the lightning.
Well, the thunder knocked our transmitter today.
Really?
Yeah, but this is being recorded, so we're fine,
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So you're in Toronto.
Nope, I'm in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. You probably don't know where that is, do you?
It's somewhere in the middle, isn't it?
You know where Nova Scotia is?
Oh, see, I didn't know it all. No, you just have to fill me in here. Sorry, man.
We're handy to Nova Scotia. I think the closest thing we got to celebrities to us is the Trailer Park Boys. Are you familiar with them?
No, don't know them.
Oh, you got to look them up. They're pretty funny. Ivan Reitman produced their first movie, but their show's gone 11 seasons.
Wow.
Yeah. Ivan Reitman produced their first movie in 2006, and you should check them out.
All right, man.
Yeah. But what was it like? Like you must have had a real sense of satisfaction and completion getting that first album made. What was your feeling upon getting that first album done?
Yeah, I guess it's a long time ago, but thinking back, I was thrilled. I played it, and I played it loud. I was very proud of it. And I remember getting the 1,000, ordering 1,000 of them, and getting them there, and not really having any kind of plan. I was playing these little open mics and showcases around LA, and it was kind of a down time for me. I had made a lot of money gambling, but I'd spent it all, and I didn't. So I was broke, and my girlfriend had just left me. But I had this album, and had a friend ask me to do a favor for him that involved a fake ID and cashing a large check that, and I went in and did that, and it turned out to be a sting, and I was arrested on the night of my CD release party for Right Side of Zero, and I was charged with laundering drug money, and I told my lawyer, said I didn't know anything about drug money. Well, they're going to say he says, and there was this mandatory sentence of 18 years that I was looking at.
Sounds like you were on the wrong side of zero.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, you know, real downtime, you know, in my life. And I remember I spent that, they arrest you on Friday, you know, that's just the way they do it. So you at least spend the weekend in jail. And that was a pretty bad time. I was in there thinking I might never get out. You know, we didn't even know if I was going to get bailed out, but many friends I had walked across the country for peace with, and knew that, you know, I was a good guy, basically sent letters to the judge, and we got bailed out of there. And pretty soon the prosecutors figured out that I wasn't, you know, a big money launderer like they thought they were catching. I was just some guy who's comfortable with fake IDs and large amounts of money from the work that I had done. And I was just doing a favor for a friend, and lucky for me, I wasn't taking any money for it, and they knew that, so I wasn't making any money. I was just doing this favor for a friend, and they charged me with a much smaller crime, failure to file a currency transaction report. Now, I did get a sentence for that. I got 3 months in a halfway house, which is usually where they put people when they're coming out of prison, right? But this was going to be my punishment. I was going to go to this halfway house, and it was kind of incarceration, but it was kind of just a little, you know, place in East Hollywood, real bad section of town. I lived in Venice, California at the time, just maybe 10 miles away. And so I had to spend 3 months there. And I had never toured. I had only been doing these little open mics and showcases around LA. But I reported to the halfway house, my little suitcase in hand, and not knowing what to expect, because this was not a world I was familiar with. You know, I was a good old boy. You know, we were blackjack players, but most of us were just college dropouts who were good at math. You know, we weren't any any kind of criminal element. You know, we were just kind of nerdy guys. But here I was, you know, and I checked into this place, and the woman at the intake meeting kind of figured out that that I was uncomfortable. I didn't really know what this was or and she says to me, you know, this is a work release program. If you have a job, you can go home during the day. You know, otherwise you have to, you know, spend all day here, sleep there, of course. And she said, if you have a job, you can go home during the day. Well, of course, I didn't have a job. I've been self-employed all my life, playing cards. That was pretty much it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but I had a copy of that CD, Right Side of Zero, in my back pocket. And when she said that, I pulled it out and I put it on the table. I said, well, I'm a singer. I'm a national touring singer-songwriter. I'll have to go home and work on my career during the day. Like, that's my job, right? Mm-hmm. And she said, okay. And so I went home every day, and I got on the internet, which was very new, but I saw some chat rooms, and I don't know what they called them at the time, some posts from some people who were involved in this kind of up-and-coming, under-the-radar singer-songwriter scene, you know, the kind of, you know, Dar Williams was breaking through, Sean Colvin at that time. Gorka, Ellis Paul, you know, and I saw some people who made posts about different things, and one of them was a booking agent, one of them was a record company, and I sent an email. It's a new thing, email at that time, but I sent an email to each of them, said, oh, you're a booking agent, I want to tour. You know, I had no idea what touring was, really. But I said, I want to tour. You know, I want to play these songs that I recorded here on this here record, and for people, you know, and maybe even get paid for it. Wouldn't that be something? And she says, well, send me your record. And I sent her my record, and she signed me up. She started booking a tour for me, and the record label, same thing. Send me your record, and I sent him my record, and he signed me up. I had a label, and this is the record that David Pyree played so much back in '96 and '97 at your station.
How did you come to find out that David Pyree and CHSR were playing your record?
Well, a good question. But there was a folk. This was my entrance really into having a career. It was called Folk DJ. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a group of DJs, of folk DJs, under the radar DJs. This is like where the DJs where they're still deciding what music they play. Your station has it there, but a lot of corporate stations don't have it. It's all pre-programmed. But so folk DJs share their playlists with each other. And, musicians can join and look at the playlists that the folk DJs play. And so you can also, the folk DJs put their address there, and you can send the folk DJs a record. So I sent David Pyree a record because I saw his post to the folk DJ forum. And then I saw him start to play it and post on his playlist that he was playing my record. And, the record did very well, and it allowed me to have an in when I started calling some venues and saying, hey, I want to come play in your spot in, somewhere in Massachusetts or whatever. And, well, what do you have going? Well, I got this guy, in New Brunswick playing my record, and this other guy in Philadelphia playing my record. So it was a way to kind of break in. It was my way to break in, and it was my way to get connected to all these DJs.
So how were you able to do that while still having to go to the halfway house at night?
Well, my first tour was while I was still incarcerated, and that's the thing. They even let you travel if you have a job. They let you travel to work. So my first tour, I was still incarcerated there, but I got a travel pass.
Okay.
And I flew to the East Coast, and I played in Vermont and New Hampshire and Massachusetts and Washington. So it was funny, I was like incarcerated, and I had to call them every day, and they had to know where I was sleeping, but I was doing my first tour. And that actually lasted a couple of years because I was on probation for a couple of years. So I still had to, as I was touring, and I used the folk DJ list to connect with DJs and ask them if they wanted me to come in and do an interview or even play a song on their show, on their radio station. And I got a lot of people that wanted me to do that. And that was another way of just kind of breaking in and having a career, was going and being interviewed live on the radio and playing music on the radio. And, I'm still grateful for that format. I'm still grateful for DJs like you that, play the under the radar stuff, don't play what they're told to play.
Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah, and there's some really, I've met some of the greatest songwriters in the world, are doing that you would never know are doing this under the radar thing, and you'd only find them if you turn on your radio. Usually left of the dial FM. I don't know what your numbers are.
CHSR 97.9 FM.
There you go.
Yep.
So, like I say, most of it is left of the dial, but then every once in a while you got somebody in the middle of the dial like you guys.
Well,
but,
we stream on the internet though. We got a web page. we stream.
Great.
Yeah.
So you'll let me know when this is going to be broadcast, and I'll put it out to my my people on social media. And we do that. We support each other.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
Yeah. I just got done playing Leah Lane from Moonways, who I got through Mike Gormley. I know I've got for the next couple of. I'm on Sunday nights. That's when my show broadcasts. So I got a couple of interviews the next couple of weeks, and then I got an interview I did Saturday that's actually going to play in 2 parts. I interviewed somebody from the movie Office Space.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and that's going to play in 2 parts. So that's the next 4 weeks. So yours will play in 5 weeks down the road, but it'll play. But I'm also putting my interviews up on YouTube as well. I got a YouTube channel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I'll need your permission to use some headshots of you and whatnot. I can do that, huh?
Of course.
Yeah, to put with the audio. Now, the YouTube, when this goes on YouTube, it won't broadcast. It won't be uploaded on YouTube probably till after the New Year's, because I just started putting them on YouTube back about 2 months ago. And you're my 39th interview, and I've putting one up a week. And
Nice.
I've got 13 up there right now, so you've got ways to wait, but it will be on the CHSR site before then. That should be on the CHSR site probably within the next 5 or 6 weeks. It'll be podcast out, so people will be able to hear it there. But when it goes on the YouTube channel, then it'll be available permanently. So,
Great.
yeah. So
I remember, I was just thinking back to that time. You got me thinking about long ago in the Halfway House in the beginning of my career there. And, after my first tour, I went back to the Halfway House, and the store, I'm there in the main area of the Halfway House where it's kind of a lobby, or I don't know what you would call it exactly, but gunshots rang out, and everybody kind of hit the ground, and including me, and people just kind of scuffled away. Everybody kind of took cover, and but I saw a guy stumble in to the room, and he was shot, and so so I tried to help. I didn't know any better. I tried to help him, right? And I got him situated on this coffee table. He was laying on this coffee table and kind of moaning in pain. And I crawled over to the payphone. Remember when there were payphones?
Yep.
And
I'm 44 years old, so I'm not that young.
All right. But I called the police, and the police said, I said, there's been a shooting. And they said, well, is the gunman still there? I said, well, I don't know. And they said, well, if you can, go find the wound, put your hand over it so the guy doesn't bleed to death, and then we'll send somebody out there. And so I went back to this guy, and he was a guy that was just out of prison, and he was kind of ripped and had some big gold chains around his neck, and he looked like a guy who wasn't going to spend a lot of time out on the. He looked like he was going to go right back to prison probably when he was done, but he's kind of a bad guy. But he shot, so I tried to help him. So I pulled down his pants, and there's this little dime-sized hole in his right butt cheek. As I put my hand over it, and try to, just like the operator said, that the police department, I'd keep him from bleeding to death, and we wait, and finally the sirens, wail, and the police person walks into the room, and the police person that reported to this call was my recent ex-girlfriend.
Wow.
I knew her as a waitress. We had been broken up for 6 months, but it only takes 6 months to become a cop in L.A., it turns out. And there she was. There she was with a badge and a gun. And there I was standing next to this body that had been shot, and I had blood all over me. And I said, hi, and she said, hi. And, and then she's like, just got into her business. Did you see the shooter? And I'm like, no, no, I was just trying to help, and, anyway, one of my first, story songs of note, Halfway Home, came from that experience. I wrote it with Robert Morgan Fisher. And, when he was once saying to me, Darryl, there should be more songs about some of the seedier things you've done. So I told him that story, and we wrote this song, Halfway Home, and it was the first song on my second record.
Which was in 1997, Same River Twice.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
I don't understand why they don't make this into a movie. Like...
Well, I Billy Crockett, who produced my last two albums, is a great producer from Blue Rock Studios down in Wimberley, Texas. And he picked out this interview, this line that I used, and picked out this interview in M Magazine that I'd done recently. He says, so you said, in your tips, they asked me for a tip for new songwriters, right? And
okay.
I apparently I said, live your life for the story. If something comes up and, maybe it requires a little bit of a risk, well, think about taking it. Because if you live an interesting life, you'll have stuff to write about. And, I guess I don't know if that's the only reason. I think I just am wired to live an interesting life. I've always gone for that over the years, and still do. Still try to stay alive by doing interesting things and fun things, but also meaningful things. It's no good unless it means something. Unless you're helping somebody, or it's something good has to come out of it, or
So when you went from Right Side of Zero to Same River Twice, were you very confident going into your second record after the first one was successful?
Well, it wasn't really about confidence for me. I remember there's a couple things I remember. One is I remember between those two records, I went to the Kerrville Folk Festival, and I saw people like Dar Williams and Ellis Paul and Tom Kimmel and Buddy Mondlock and Annie Gallup and others, and I realized, oh my God, these people are writing songs, like Paul Simon and Joni Mitchell. They're writing great songs, and I saw what was possible, and so the bar was raised for me. And so I think for that second album, the songs were, they were written to a higher standard. And I was, so that's one thing I remember about the second album. You asked about, was I confident? I never.
I guess what I was getting at, like, you just did an album. Like, I'll give you an example. My first interview was with Tommy Wiseau of the movie The Room, April of 2015. And it was amazing to talk to Tommy Wiseau. And after that interview, I was like, who else can I interview, And I remember seeking out Adrienne King, who was a heroine from Friday the 13th. And when she got back to me, I was like, wow, like, I can't believe this is happening, And it just took off from there. And you're my 39th, and I got number 40 this Thursday,
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Part of it, and I think you and I both can relate to this. Part of it is not believing in limitations. Some people, they just go through life and they think, well, I can't do that. I can't do this. I can't do the other thing. Well, maybe you should filter those thoughts out, and do incredible things, I think, so I never had any kind of overconfidence. I just didn't buy into any limitations. You know, I just put one foot in the front of the other and didn't buy into any limitations. And I looked, you know, especially with my music career, I looked for signs. You know, I look for signs that what I'm doing matters, and what I'm doing is important to somebody, and you know what I'm doing is meaningful. I remember in those early, probably it was 1997. It was in those early days. Maybe it was right before I actually recorded that second album. And I had entered a songwriting contest up at in Bend, Oregon, and I started doing that. I started entering songwriting contests, and then I kept winning them. You know, I was pretty. You know, I thought, oh, okay, maybe I do have something. You know, I kept getting first place in these songwriting contests, and in this one, I got first place. It's where I met the great songwriter Dave Carter, and he was one of the judges there. And I remember that night I got to play a song in the big auditorium at the big show for the festival because I had won the songwriting contest, you know. So I went out there, and it was under the lights, you know, the big lights, and it was this big green room, and it was just kind of, I hadn't been used to it. I was doing house concerts and coffee shops and such. And on this particular night, Pat Donahue was playing, and Chris Smither was playing, and John McEwen from the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. And
I've seen them live.
What's that?
I've seen the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band live. They performed here. They opened for Willie Nelson.
Yeah, so you've seen them, and you know, you've seen John. And anyway, I did my one song and said thank you very much, and you know, people applauded, and I left, and I walked back the big maze of hallways to get back to the green room, and John McEwen comes up to me and says, you know, well, that was mighty nice. You'll come out and play with me, you know, in my set, you know. And I'm like, oh man, that'd be great, but I can't. I got a gig in Idaho the next day, so I've got to drive, you know. I've got to leave right now. And I put my guitar in my case, and I closed it all up, and I got all ready to go. And I had one of the finger sandwiches, you know, they have backstage. And a guy comes running into the green room, and he says, hey, you know, me. He says, you, get back out on stage. They haven't stopped applauding.
Wow. That is awesome.
And you know, so that was one of the more notable times where I said, oh, okay, maybe I've got something that needs to be shared. You know, maybe I've got something, you know, that is important. Maybe I got something that's meaningful, and maybe I should keep making music. You know, and so I just continued to look for signs. You know, making music is hard. You know, with gambling, you just have to be good. You know, you just have to be good and go out there and gamble. And, you know, your teammates will see that you're good, and you'll bring home the money, and that's it. You know, but with music, you have to convince other people that you're good. You don't just have to be good. You know, it's not a meritocracy exactly. You have to be good, and then you have to, you know, kind of be good at the business of music, or have somebody being good at the business of music on your behalf. And so, you know, that in that way, it makes, you know, the gambling world a lot easier. But yeah, and to this day, I look for reasons to continue. And, you know, these last two records both got to number one on the folk charts at Roots Music Report, and both to a large extent, you know, because they were being played in Canada, actually. And so, you know, things like that tell me, yeah, maybe I should make another record. Maybe I should write some more songs. This current record, I wrote all the songs with my friend Paul Zolo. And he's a remarkable writer, and I was really lucky to get him to collaborate on all these songs with me. And you know, that was a reason to keep doing it, to keep playing, you know, to show off, you know, what Paul and I could do together.
So would you say Same River Twice had pretty similar success as Right Side to Zero?
In some ways, I think I had more success with that. It wasn't as produced as Right Side of Zero was. It was just me kind of singing the songs into, and I had a little bit of violin play with me, but it was just mostly me singing the songs. And, but it was very popular in the songwriting circles, because as I say, I think the songwriting, took a big leap in between those records because of my experience with under the radar, songwriters, and seeing what was done and seeing how high the bar was and shooting for that. So they were both successful in different ways. I think the folk DJs liked the Same River Twice record a little more because it was mostly just acoustic guitar, and I was playing the guitar pretty well at that point.
And then in 1999, you come out with your third record, Traveler's Code.
Right.
Talk about that.
Well, thinking back, it was just making more records. I got, that signaled the start of me understanding that I needed help to make records. Like singing is a thing that I do. Songwriting is a thing I do. Playing the guitar is a thing I do. Making records is a whole different thing. It's not as simple as, just writing and singing and playing and turning on a microphone, And so with Traveler's Code, I asked David Miner to produce a record for me. And to this day, that's probably the most produced sounding record that I've made. And it's still some people's favorites. I think all the records are some people's favorites, and that's always nice. There don't seem to be any losers in there.
So what is the title, like Traveler's Code? What is that?
It's kind of it's sort of a secular spiritual song, and Traveler's Code is I would refer people to the lyrics mostly. It's like if you have to explain it, I think that it's better for people to just listen to the lyric and see if they get something from it. But I'll just say that it's a spiritual song about what motivates you and how good intentions and matter.
So it's very symbolic.
Yeah, it's very symbolic, and it's a heart song. It's a song about living and moving through the world with a good heart, and loving and people and treating people well, and as you move through the world. A lot of people have thought. I've heard people say they want that song played at their funeral. And I think that's a compliment. Wow. But that album also has the produced version of a song called Mr. Schwinn, which is one of people's favorites of mine, as well as The Last Great Kiss of the 20th Century, and a song called Child of Hearts that I wrote for my, at the time, 4-year-old daughter that I was kind of estranged from. And it was still one of my favorite tracks that I've made. And the good news is that I have a very good relationship with her right now after really, not knowing her for most of her childhood. But we get along really well now, and we hang out together.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, she came to Colorado, at least partly to be close to me and so that I could help her with stuff. She's going to school in Denver. I live up in Netherlands.
Okay.
Which is about 20 miles west of Boulder, up into the mountains.
Okay.
I'm at about 8,500 feet.
Okay. I'm really glad you reconnected with her, though. That makes for some happy songwriting.
Everybody is, and maybe especially me. And I think she's happy too, you know.
That's great. She like going to school or college?
Yes. Yeah, she's going to college in Denver.
Is she gonna be a songwriter like her father?
I don't know. You know, we're going to have our big. Well, it'll probably be before this plays. It'll be over. But this weekend we're going to have our. We have it every year. Our songwriting camp, songwriting retreat in the Rocky Mountains. We do it here right at my house and the next door house. And we got Peter Mulvey and Tracy Grammer and Dango Rose of Elephant Revival is coming by. And we're going to have a good time. And she's going to be one of the students. She's going to be one of the campers. She's interested in learning how to write. And, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
You know, it's interesting because it made me think of something. I heard a Howard Stern interview Weird Al Yankovic recently, and the topic of his daughter came up, and he said that Weird Al is really, really skilled at playing the accordion, and his daughter actually asked him to teach her accordion.
Yeah.
I thought about that when you was mentioning that.
Well, you know, my daughter won't be learning accordion from me because
Weird Al was skilled at playing the accordion, so I think
Gotcha.
that's where she approached him on that, because Weird Al from his first album played accordion, and that's one of those instruments he was very skilled at. But
Gotcha.
perhaps like you with guitar and violin and whatnot, maybe she'd approach you on something else.
Right. Well, in this case, we're going to work on songwriting together, so that could be really fun.
That's great. That is awesome. And then after the millennium in 2001, you did an album called Crooked Line. Tell us about the process of that.
Well, that was just the next album. You know, I just kept making more albums, and again, about finding a producer, a fellow named Evan Brubaker produced that one, and I'm proud of it. I'm equally proud of that one as I am of Traveler's Code and the rest. And I remember Dave Carter and Tracy Grammer played a lot on that record, on the Crooked Line record. I wrote a song with Ellis Paul on that, and he sang and played on that as well. And I covered I did my first cover of a Dave Carter song called "The River Where She Sleeps" on that record.
So
I remember.
What is the Crooked Line? What are you referencing there?
Well, the chorus is, gosh, it's so funny how you can't think of a lyric unless your guitar is in your hands, you know. But you say that the shortest distance between 2 points.
It's a straight line.
Basically, the message is the key line is that the shortest distance between 2 points is still a crooked line. I should look that up and read it to you. I wanted to read you the whole chorus, but I can't think of it. That's funny.
And then in 2002, you did Gift of the, I think that's Magi and other seasonal stories.
Yeah, Gift of the Magi. It's kind of a secular holiday album, and I just did a lot of covers on that album. I wrote 3 songs for the album, including the song "Gift of the Magi," which I wrote with Mary Sue Toohey, and it's basically the story of O. Henry's.
Okay.
O. Henry's O. Henry's most famous short story, The Gift of the Magi. It's the story of the poor couple come Christmas time, and they want to give each other something special, and she's a beautiful woman, and with this long flowing hair past her knees, and he's a poor man, but his father has given him this really fine watch, and she cuts her hair off and sells it in order to buy him a chain for the watch. And he sells the watch in order to buy her some things for her hair, some ornaments for her hair. And, the message is that, it's just a message of love. It's a message of that love conquers all. And it's these people that, who have the right motivation and love each other deeply, they're the ones that are going to succeed, regardless of the ironic twist that can happen in life sometimes.
Yeah, and then that was like you say that was like that album was like a cover album, huh?
Yeah, I wrote 3 songs from that album, and then we covered some of the great songs of all time. I mean, that's the thing about it. That's my only cover album, and it's also my only holiday album. And it's, in some ways it's so great to do a cover album because you can just pick the greatest songs ever written. We do Christmas in the Trenches by John McCutcheon. We do The Christians and the Pagans by Dar Williams. We do a song called Holy Now by Peter Mayer from Minnesota. Okay. And there's just a real fun collection of songs. We do, just to show you where the reach is, even though it's a holiday album, we do Turn, Turn, Turn by Pete Seeger.
Okay.
To Everything There Is a Season. Fun record to make. Ed Tree produced that, and it was at my height of a guitar player. I don't think I've reached that again, because shortly after that record I sat down my guitar and didn't play for about 7 years, and now I've come back and made a couple records. But at that time I was a pretty good guitar player, and these songs were just recorded live with me playing guitar and singing, and I'm real proud of how the guitar came out. I played a lot of open tunings, a lot of 3-string capo stuff. It's fun stuff.
And then you did in 2005. You did live at Coalesce.
Okay.
My apologies.
Yeah.
So
right.
You did a nice live album, huh?
Yeah, it was a wonderful little bookstore that has a chapel in the back, and people come to shows there. And I knew that I was sitting my guitar down, and I just wanted to record, or I just wanted to document the shows that I was doing at those later years with Julie Beaver, the fiddler. And so, I asked her father to bring a camera to the show, and he brought 3. And we made a DVD and a CD of a show live. I think we played 17 songs, and we recorded them all. We didn't leave one out.
Wow.
And I also, on Crooked Line, I think I said I did my first Dave Carter cover, and then on The Gift of the Magi, I did another Dave Carter cover, a song called American Noel. Then on the Coalesce record, I continued that with the song Red of Dave's. I'm a big fan of his songwriting, and I've always wanted to get the message out there about his songwriting. He was kind of a level above all of us, I think.
So what was it like doing a live recording, like
Well,
compared to yeah?
we did it in Ed Tree's garage in Southern California, and he was just great. He was so great to work with, um, and captured the best of these songs. And I remember, I think one night I slept on the floor there in his garage, and I remember getting it done. And I remember that Dave had just died before I recorded that record. I wasn't planning on putting a song of Dave's on there, and he died that summer. And I felt like I had to at least give it a try. So we put the American Noel song on there, and I'm really glad I did.
Yeah.
And it was simple, I mean, that one was a simple record to make, again, because just like Same River Twice, it was just me playing and singing. And I guess the live one, you have to put a little bit in that category, but it wasn't simple, because the live one you had to mix and make up for some of the issues that happen when you're recording live.
Yeah. And then a lot of time passed, and then it was 2012 before you did Next Time Around. Now, before we get to that, why so long between albums?
Well, most interviews I do, there's just not time enough to answer that question. Maybe this is kind of a long form interview, so maybe we do have some time. And
Sure.
the truth is, I don't know that I know the real answer, but there were a lot of things that went into that. I mean, part of it was just getting burned out. I was blinders on, and I was working 18 hours a day.
Okay.
Either playing or driving or sending emails or booking gigs or recording or writing or whatever it took, And so maybe I was burned out a little. And it was right about that time. I had been, again, let's say 9 years of full-time music. Since that incident in the halfway house that I described, I'd been doing full-time music, and I started with no money. I mean, when I say no money, I mean like no credit card, no nothing. I mean I had to sell CDs at gigs. There were a couple of times where if I didn't sell a few CDs, I didn't have gas to get to the next gig, and I really had nobody to call at that point in my life, and at least I don't remember that, and it was a tough time, and I made it work. And 9 years later, I was playing some good venues, and I was able to, at first I was sleeping in my truck, and towards the end, I was able to get hotel rooms. It was nice. It was nice, but it was. I'd always said, I'm going to do this unless it goes. I'm not even going to consider stopping until I feel like I have a year that's not as good as the year before. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So yeah. So and then that kind of happened. It kind of happened. Maybe in 2003 I didn't make a record, or maybe it was 2004 I didn't make a record. So maybe I sold some less CDs than I did in 2003. I remember telling this to some other professional musicians, and they just laughed at me, because of course it's always up and down, and you just keep going. That's what they do. But I was like, this is, and it wasn't a horrible year. It was just the first time that it had ever gone down. That my career in measurable ways hadn't gone up. I hadn't noticed me getting better rooms to play. I hadn't sold more CDs. I didn't notice that I was getting better gigs at that point. And so, a little crack opened up for me to consider that this wasn't going to be what I did for the rest of my life. And at the same time, I got a call from my friend, the gambler, and my longtime partner, Richard Munchkin.
Okay.
And he said, "Hey, we got this game. Maybe you're interested in it." And well, he had a couple of games, and they were all very interesting. I don't know which one you want to hear about, but I could tell you about one of the things he had was online gambling.
Okay.
And he said, you can play here and there, and you can make a little money. And I thought, well, I haven't made a little money in a long time. Maybe that would be cool. And the place I was living in near Colorado Springs didn't have any internet, so I went down to the Starbucks in Colorado Springs, with a computer, and just started playing at a few online casinos under my own name, and was making just not that many hours and making a couple hundred a week, and that was nice. And she soon had some new ideas about how to exploit these casinos. And the thing with online casinos is it's all electronics. How do you trust that what you're clicking on things and things are happening, but how do you trust that it's correct? But we were fortunate enough to start winning right at the beginning, and we never went under what we were expected to win, and we were playing a winning game. So it was never a problem. We never considered it, and we didn't look back. And we all of a sudden, I was making, $1,000 a week, and then, I was going to the Starbucks with two computers and starting to play under another name, a friend's name, and having both computers go at the same time. And I was still just like limiting myself to one latte a day because I didn't really have that much money, at the time. But the story goes that I ended up, over the course of, the better part of a year, going to this Starbucks, and in the end, it would be with 3 computers, and I won $1 million in that Starbucks on those 3 computers.
Wow, I wouldn't mind winning $1 million.
Yeah, no, it was really something, and it changed everything. And I thought, what do I really want to do? What do I really want to do? And if I had just had a little more going on music career-wise, I might have said, I want to keep playing. But when I answered that question, what do I really want to do? I want to find my favorite place in the world, buy a house, and live in one place for a while.
And that was Colorado?
What's that?
Was that Colorado?
It was Colorado. It was Nederland, Colorado. And so I did. And it was good for me. It was healthy. I listened to the Buddhist master Thich Nhat Hanh. I did some studying with him. And I got healthy, and I rode my bike up here and did a lot of hiking. And, I hiked what we call the 14ers, the mountains that are 14,000 feet high. I hiked to the Continental Divide, and just found my church up there on the top of those mountains.
Yeah,
I kind of always knew I would play music again, but I didn't know when it would happen. And it turned out to be a long break.
What was it like when you did next time around? Were you rusty, or were you did it just come naturally?
I was totally rusty, but we had some great songs, because these were songs written. Some of them were written before I put my guitar down, and some of them were written like in the year, before we made the record. But we just had a great collection of songs, and I was rusty, but I met Billy Crockett at a Folk Alliance conference, and I just thought, I want to make a record with this guy. And that idea proved to be a good idea. And we made this record, and the producer made up for the fact that I wasn't sure where my fingers should go on the guitar. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but yeah, we made a record, and it is perhaps, I like the new record, but I don't know. I would say that first record is perhaps, as this new record is feeling old now because it's been out 3 months. I shouldn't say this, but I like that record probably best of all of any record I made. That Next Time Around record.
Oh,
and then we made a follow-up a couple years later, and that's the new record called Still the Birds.
Okay.
And that record I'm very proud of too. That record is a little art project.
I need to ask, what's your favorite instrument to play?
Well, I only play guitar, so.
Oh, I thought you played
guitar.
violin as well.
No, Julie Beaver played violin.
Okay,
with me, and
I guess maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not my bad.
That's okay. Yeah, no, I only play guitar. I keep it simple. I'm efficient. I'm efficient with life. I like my cream, rinse, and shampoo in one bottle. I just try to make it easy. And I could learn another instrument, but obviously that would require a lot of time. And there's a lot I want to do in my life. And
yes,
playing the guitar allows me to do much of it. Playing the guitar allows me to accomplish my goals and follow my dreams pretty well. So I'm okay with that.
You're talking about hiking. I just wondered, I've never been to Colorado. In fact, I haven't even been outside New Brunswick. But I was wondering, do you get any interesting animals up there?
Well, it's funny you say that because I don't know if they're interesting, but we've got this little chipmunks that lately have wanted to come in and be part of the upstairs in my house. And
Chippendale?
And we when I travel, which I do a bunch, we rent the house out, on Airbnb, and I think some people left the door open at one point, and so these chipmunks got comfortable in the upstairs, and now I don't know how to keep them out because there's a sliding glass door, but it's too hot to close the sliding glass door. It's too warm, so we've got a sliding screen door, and we use that, and they just have made their way through the screen down at the bottom, and I just recently covered it up with some duct tape, and then I came home and they had chewed their way. These little chipmunks had chewed their way through the screen. So I'm looking at it right now. I've taped a pizza box over it, and they've stayed away. I don't know if they're staying away because they sense that I'm here or because something about the pizza box is keeping them away. I hope it's something about the pizza box is keeping them away. The other thing I'm looking at right now as I look out my window is I have a hummingbird feeder out there, and so the hummingbirds are alive and thriving right here in Netherlands on my deck. I'm looking at them right now. They're really fun to watch.
Yeah.
And of course we have your requisite bears and moose and
deer.
Sure.
Yeah, we got deer. Deer don't know how to stay off the roads here.
Yeah.
I've been actually pulled over twice for driving too slow, and I live out in the boonies. So I'm like, yeah. When I told the officer, I'm just driving slow because you only got a split hair of a second to stop when a deer runs out in front of you. But most deer up on my road, though, they'll stand there and watch you drive by. So most of them are kind of used to seeing vehicles. So.
Yeah, deer are dangerous, they say. That's the answer to a difficult trivia question that would be difficult, except I've just told you the answer
Yeah.
of what animal kills more humans than any other animal. And it turns out it's deer, because we keep running into them with our big metal death machines.
Actually, I saw an internet thing that had the top 10 most dangerous animals in terms of the number of human deaths every year. And deer did not make the list.
No, not top 10. Well, they might not count that as the deer killing the humans, because it's actually the humans running into the deer. But who were some of the top ones on the list?
Well, number 10 was sharks. And of course, the great white, of course, is the biggest culprit. Number 9 is.
No, they kill nobody. Sharks kill like 5 people a year. Anyway, you go ahead. I'm sorry. Don't get me started.
Number 9 is jellyfish,
Okay.
especially the box jellyfish in Australia. Number 8 is a hippopotamus.
Okay.
Yeah. Number
In
7.
Africa?
Yeah, they're apparently very dangerous. Number 7 is lions.
Yeah.
Number 6 is killer bees.
Okay.
Number 5 is elephants.
Yeah, I believe that.
Oh, I've seen videos of them flipping Range Rovers. I mean, they're a powerful animal. Number 4 is crocodile. I think the biggest guilty one there is the Australian saltwater, which is the biggest. Number 3 is scorpions. And the biggest guilty one of that is the deathstalker scorpion in Africa. Number 2 is one of my personal favorites, snakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I think it's the Egyptian cobra. I think it kills more people than any of them, and they're not even the most venomous of snakes. But and number 1, strangely enough, is mosquitoes.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
From malaria, yep.
But you know what? They're counting, they're not counting, because the deer just get in our way. They don't actually bite us and kill us. We kill ourselves by creating these roads and these big metal death machines that we drive all around. But you've heard the statistic that you're more likely to get hit by a coconut falling from a palm tree than you are by a shark.
I don't know.
Right? I think that's true. I think you check it out, Greg. I think it's true. I believe it.
Yeah, of course, one of the runner-ups too was bears. Was in the runner-ups, but I don't know.
When you get to bears and sharks, you're talking about single digits every year. Really small numbers.
I don't know what the numbers was, but I know I saw that list somewhere on the internet, and I've seen it in a couple of places. But
that's fun.
Yeah, because I like watching animal life videos, especially African wildlife. So, yeah. But getting back to the music, though, I was just wondering, I know you've made reference to some of your influences, but I was going to ask you who your influence were. I know you mentioned a few people that you were involved with, but any that you haven't mentioned?
Well, I guess I was originally weaned on Paul Simon and...
You there?
Just got disconnected, but I think I'm back now. Paul Simon, Jackson Browne, and Dan Fogelberg, I would say. But I've always kind of been influenced by songwriters, and even if it's different kinds of songwriters, not just folk singers, but rock bands and the like. And more recently, it's been Bruce Cockburn and Sean Colvin.
I saw Bruce Cockburn in concert.
He's pretty amazing. He's pretty great, I think.
Yep. Yeah, and yeah. Keep going.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I was going to go on to another topic, but did you have other influence you were going to mention?
I would say Dave Carter.
Okay.
Listening.
Yeah, I saw Bruce Cockburn years ago at the Playhouse here, A very environmental, the environmentalist.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But
Yeah.
I got down here on my paper the Great Peace March, for which you did in '86. You want to talk about that?
Well, sure. We walked across the country for peace. We were 1,200 people, and we started out from Los Angeles, and we got a couple weeks into the desert in Barstow, California, in the high desert. And the organizer of the walk flew out and told us the money was gone, we could all go home. And there were 400 or 500 of us who decided we were going to walk across the country anyway. And so we began to reorganize. And the musicians, at the time in my life, it was 86, I hadn't ever performed for anybody really or anything. But I'd had a guitar, and I'd been playing it and writing some songs. And the musicians began to write songs about why we were walking, and we ended up playing in churches and schools and steps of City Hall all across the country. It became a very musical walk at that point. We got a lot of help from our musical heroes, including Jackson Browne and James Taylor and Holly Near, Pete Seeger. Oh my goodness, Pete Seeger. What a guy.
Wow.
Peter Yarrow also helped us, and Rod McDonald, and many others. Casey Kasem, he was a big peace guy. I don't know if you remember this, but he was a big peace guy. And
Howard Stern's been talking about him a lot lately because they apparently they weren't burying his body. His family were fighting over his body or something like that.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, yeah.
Sad too.
Yeah.
But anyway, it became a very musical walk, and we ended up playing songs all the way across the country. And at one point, we were in Baltimore, and we did a concert there that Peter Yarrow, to this day, calls one of the 5 best concerts he's ever been a part of, one of his 5 best shows. And Pete Seeger, before he died, called it the best show he's ever been a part of. And I was on stage with him the whole time. Everybody in the show was on stage the whole time. It was 4+ hours, and it was just one of the more remarkable things. The outside world was invited, and the marchers came, and we were feeling it because we were so close to D.C., and we ended up walking into Washington, D.C. 8 months later, 8 months after the desert in California, on schedule, with about 10,000 people, and it was we still to this day, many of my best friends are from that time. It was a rich time.
Wow. Well, I got to ask you, since Mike Gormley's from Canada, I quizzed him on a lot of Canadian artists. So I know you're not Canadian, but I need to ask you about, do you have any favorite Canadian artists?
I have a new group that I like a lot. They're called the Young Novelists.
Okay, I haven't heard of them. No.
If you heard of them, they're from Toronto, I think.
Okay.
And I just love those guys. And they've got a couple records out. But, yeah, I hope you can check them out because they're kind of under the radar. They're a husband and wife team with some pretty great sidemen that play with them often. And I just love what they do. And they come to the Folk Alliance conferences, and I get to hear them there. They don't get to Colorado much, if at all. But they're certainly in Toronto, and you can certainly hear them in Toronto. And it's worth checking out.
Wow. Well, you know what? We've been talking for about an hour and a half. You've told some interesting stories. I can't believe they don't make a movie about your life. Even the little thing about the chipmunks. I mean, throw a little bit of humor in there. Probably wasn't funny at the time, but But
no, it's still
you
going on at the time. You say at the time. No, this is right now. This is
this
happening.
right now. You're doing your Apocalypse Now with those
I'm
chipmunks.
I'm looking at the pizza box, man.
We don't have a lot of chipmunks here. We got a lot of squirrels, but I see only the odd chipmunk. We don't. I don't see a lot of them. But
Well, Greg, it was good. It's good talking to you. I enjoyed that.
yeah, Mike Gormley said that you had a pretty amazing story, and I looked you up on Wikipedia, and I listened to some of your songs on YouTube to get a little hang of what kind of music you played, and yeah, you have a great talent, and you got a great voice, and you got a lot of sincerity in your passion for your music, and I'm really happy that Mike's been sending people my way, and I think his profile picture right now on Facebook is one of your album covers, I think.
Oh, really? Oh, that's nice.
I think so. Don't quote me on that, but I think so.
I'll check it out.
Yeah,
I'll check it out.
but yeah, he sent me contact information for you there yesterday, and I'm really glad we got the chance to talk because, like I said, I tried to do a live interview with you, and I learned that night, don't do live interviews. And that wasn't very helpful, but we had a power outage here due to some construction going on. I guess, I don't know whether it was a transformer or a pole or something got hit with something or a car or something. I don't know. But, I mean, even up at the mall, I was supposed to go to a special matinee screening of E.T. the Extraterrestrial and couldn't go because there was no power. So, but it affected one of her boards, and thank goodness they got a loaner in, and I was able to do an interview Saturday and got you on here, and I'm glad that we were able to sit down and chat, and you had a really amazing story, and I hope you get to reconnect with David Perry and maybe say hello to him. I have never met him, but like I said, there's people here that know who he is. So
very cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Right, Greg,
before.
I appreciate it. I appreciate your interest, and it was good talking to you.
Yeah, I got a couple questions before I let you go. Number one, how do I go about getting an autograph?
Well, you just send me a note on Facebook or email, and I'm happy to oblige.
Oh, you're on Facebook, huh?
Yes, yeah, find me there.
Okay, I'll do that.
I'm also on Twitter and Instagram. If people are doing that kind of thing, come follow me.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter as well. I've got
try to keep it interesting.
I've got a few interviews off Twitter, but Twitter's kind of hard to get interviews with 140 characters. But I've gotten a few through it. But strangely enough, I got an interview with Alfred Hitchcock's granddaughter through Twitter, and that was a pretty amazing experience. Yeah.
Man, that's wild.
That is wild. She was great to talk to. But yeah, and the second thing, I would love it if you did a plug for my show.
I'd be happy to.
Yeah, just
what do you want me to say?
Say your name and say you're listening to Python's Paradise in Fredericton, Python's Paradise with Greg Gilbert in Fredericton, New Brunswick.
Okay, let me. I'm going to look at the email from Mike so I get all those words correct. Because I don't exactly know how to... Greg Gilbert, right? I didn't know how to spell your last name exactly. Python's Paradise.
Yeah.
Greg Gilbert, CHSR.
There you go.
In New Brunswick?
Yep, Fredericton, New Brunswick.
Fredericton.
Yeah.
Okay, here you go.
Sure.
My name is Darryl Purpose. You're listening to Greg Gilbert, Python's Paradise in Fredericton, New Brunswick.
Yeah. And when you go on tour,
you want me to say it better? Want me to try it better?
You can try it better. Give it another shot. There you go.
Okay, I gotta write. Write it all down in one place. This is so sad. Is it FREDERICKTON?
No, there's no K. Just a C
Okay,
and then
got
TON. Yep.
Hey, everybody, this is Darryl Purpose, and you are listening to Python's Paradise with Greg Gilbert, coming to you from Fredericton, New Brunswick.
Yes. And when you go on tour, you got to come down to Fredericton.
Okay,
we,
fair enough.
we were lucky. We were lucky to get Brian Adams here, but I've almost find that so many musicians, they'll either go to St. John or Moncton, and they'll skip Fredericton, and we're supposed to be the capital city of New Brunswick.
Huh. Well, let's do it.
Yeah, you could tour through here, maybe perform at the Playhouse or the Aiken Center, wherever. There are two main concert venues here. But, yeah, I think it'd be pretty cool to see you in concert, and maybe if you do a meet and greet after, I could come back and see you in person.
Sounds good, man. I'd like to meet you someday.
Sure, that would be great. Yeah, and a special thanks to Mike Gormley for my third interview.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah,
he's the best.
He is the best. He's been very good to me, and I'm hoping to get through more people through him. So,
all right, man, you take care.
Darryl, you have yourself a good night, and stay away from that thunder and ward off those chipmunks.
All right. Bye-bye, Greg.
You take it easy, and God bless.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.